watching E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Share and subscribe.
This first comment comes from Andrew Verrett. It's a pretty long comment, so I'm going to condense this down. But basically, what he says in this comment is he felt that Mechagodzilla could work if you made it in such a way where it's a biomechanical monster. Kind of like what Predator is. Biomechanical, he's kind of biological with machinery on him, cyborg type. And he says that they can make it so that some of Godzilla's DNA or flesh latches on to computers, military equipment, and this and that. And it's very creative, but I don't think that would fly. That sounds like a Toho movie, which is not a knock on Toho, because Toho, a lot of Godzilla movies from Toho are very off the wall. You know, some of their ideas are off the wall. Like Godzilla vs. Gigan, those aliens are roaches. So, you know what I'm saying? So that sounds like a Toho movie. That sounds like a very good Toho movie. I'm not too sure that would work. And even if it did work, even if the story worked, it's still a big mechanical Godzilla, which, if I'm looking at it from a general perspective as a fan, I would say to myself, why does the monster have to look like Godzilla, even if it has his DNA? Why does it have to be like? Why couldn't they be more creative? It's in other words, I think some general fans would look at it and say, well, that's just kind of being lazy. You know what I mean? So that's my opinion on that. This one came from Kaiju Kun 64. I actually responded to him in the comment section, but I'll read it here. I don't see how other Toho Kaiju could be ruled out entirely. Most are just enemies for Godzilla to fight, right? Right, he's asking. They're not the stars of the film. They're there so Godzilla has an enemy to fight against. If audiences have really latched on to Godzilla, I don't think they'll not go see the movie because of another monster he fights. You see, but then once again, now you're starting to go down the Toho road, because then you're going to start making a bunch of Godzilla versus movies for the sake of making versus movies. And at the same time, if you're going to put Godzilla in it, then what's the point of bringing another monster from the universe? Why not just make one? Because the monster is not going to have his own story. It's not going to have its own development. If it's just going to be cannon fodder for Godzilla. But the point I made here to him in the comment section was that I think after a while the general audience will just get burnt out. You know, how many times are we going to repeat Godzilla fighting another monster from the Toho universe? As a fan, that's music to our ears. We're basically seeing the Godzilla series rehashed in modern technology.
Right.
But as a general fan, after 3 movies, they're done. That's it. It's like, all right, we're going to do this again. So this is what I mean by separating like the fandom from logic. You know what I mean? It would be great for myself, for Joey, for anybody here in chat, to see all Godzilla movies redone with special effects and stuff like that we have today, outside of like maybe Shin and maybe some of the Millennium ones, whatever. People would love to see that. And the kaiju fans, that is. But the general audience is not going to go do it. Therefore, you're not going to make money. Therefore, the production companies are not going to invest in that, because they already have the foresight and the market research to know that if we try to do more than 3 or 4 Godzilla movies that have monsters outside of the ones we've already selected, we're not going to make a profit, period. It might work the first or second time, but the third time they're going to be like, all right, that's it. This is a good one from Ron P. This he seems like he's kind of down the middle here. Many fans can't take themselves out of the fan bubble and look at the big picture. With as big a brand as Kaiju is, Godzilla 2014, Kong Skull Island, and King Kong 2005 all grossed $550 million worldwide each. So to think a sillier looking monster can equal those receipts is far-fetched. And that's true. That's very true. And because they won't make that kind of money, you would be forced to put Godzilla in the movie to make it legitimate, and then that's when you go down the road of having one too many Godzilla movies. You know, people don't get tired of Marvel and DC and all that, because that's very ingrained into American culture. These comics have been around for years. Kaiju is a foreign thing. It's a very, very niche genre here in the States. So there's not that many fans out there to carry it on its own. You need the general audience to carry it. and the general audience, their interest is limited. You know, they'll have fun with it. They'll love their monster romps, but they're not going to spend money over and over to see Godzilla fight a different monster again and again and again. So, Mr. Awesomeness 360. So he had a pretty long one too, but I'm going to get to the gist of it. So basically, he's saying in the video I mentioned about Pacific Rim not doing as well as most people think. He says, I disagree about Pacific Rim not doing well. At the box office, the movie did $411 million at the worldwide gross. That was its worldwide gross. So the movie did very well. And he's talking about overall. I don't know if he was paying attention to my video, but I was specifying the states. We all know that most of these movies do well overseas. Nonetheless, he continues. So the movie did very well. The gross is the final say of how much a movie made in total, not domestic gross, which we all understand that. If it worked that way, why would we bother selling our movies to other countries? And all right, so he's trying to give me a lesson. So I'm gonna, which I already know about this. So we're gonna go forward. So anyway, in the gist of it is, he's saying that Pacific Rim is not a failure because it made $411 million worldwide. So we're gonna do some numbers here. We're gonna do some
only
math.
100 million here in the States.
Which is horrible. Just so you know, that's
Godzilla
horrible.
opened up opening weekend of 93. And,
Yeah.
You know,
but
those big blockbusters open over with 100
But
million.
here's the problem. See, this is for Mr. Awesomeness 360. Like, I get what you're saying, but I think you're missing a very important point. This is why it was a failure. It did almost 80% of its profit overseas. The problem is, when you sell your movie overseas, the box office there, they get more of the proceeds than it would here. I believe in the States, the studio and the theater split it down the middle 50-50. Overseas, they get 75%. 75%. Now, this movie cost $190 million to make. Okay, so you don't even have to really grab a calculator right now to say that basically you only made roughly a little over $200 million than what it took to make the movie. This is not including marketing. This is not including what you split down the middle with the box office here in the States. And this is not including the 75% that overseas takes. It was a failure, my friend. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah.
So $400 million looks like a fantastic number. But if you only made $100 million in the States, you didn't make any money. You made nothing. Anyway, let's get into the bounty hunter situation going on with this casting call. So I want to know your thoughts on this. Joey, we'll start with you.
Or go ahead, me?
Yeah, we'll start with you.
I immediately thought of Quint, Robert Shaw's character in Jaws. Because I know a lot of the original Godzilla 2014, a lot of it was themed kind of around how Jaws was. And I'm thinking that have you seen the bonus features and about Monarch and the Godzilla DVD and Blu-ray?
Yeah, but I don't remember. I actually haven't seen that movie in a while.
Basically, that people are starting to uncover what Monarch is.
Yep.
And maybe they're they hire someone that they want, a group of people to go out, kind of like a little bit like Skull Island, where they're trying to go out and see, what else the government is lying about, what else is out there. Let's hire this bounty hunter to find what else the government's been lying to us about. Because all of a sudden, we're living our normal lives. Now we got fucking Godzilla coming out of nowhere, destroying San Francisco.
Yeah.
So that's my thought.
You know what? A couple of things crossed my mind, but one of the more recent thoughts I had was that they could be monster bounty hunters, but not necessarily trying to capture the monsters. I think that because of the cave paintings that we see, like at the end of Kong Skull Island, and because now they know other monsters exist, Monarch hires bounty hunters to go and find the location of these monsters. I think that's probably what it's going to be. That they look, we know these monsters. These are the best top, I don't know, these guys look for Bigfoot or the Yeti or whatever. They're just pros at finding rare species. Let's put it like that. Mm-hmm. They're professional wildlife, people who know wildlife stuff. I don't even know what the fuck you call those people. I'm spitting from the head here, but these are people who are known for finding rare species or known for surviving in the most unsurvivable situations to find rare creatures, whatever, and they
Yeah.
hire them to go find Ghidorah, Mothra, and Rodan, and to see if there's a chance they're going to wake to get
But
samples.
wouldn't that follow the same line of what they did in Skull Island, where they hired Tom Hiddleston to be the tracker to find, to track something? Wouldn't that kind of be doing the same thing? You wouldn't want to do that again, would you?
But you're not doing it again technically. You're doing it in a different movie. In fact, this is where you can bridge a gap. How about Tom Hiddleston is in Monarch at the end of that movie, right? In the 70s. So he's the one that starts the bounty hunting division in Monarch to find the monsters. Boom.
And
I should be a
and they
fucking
haven't
writer.
found a monster until 2014 or 299.
No, he's been looking for them that whole time. Come on. If these... All right, so in that movie, they already have 3 monsters they know of in the 70s. Okay? In the 70s. Oh, so he's the one that's responsible for finding all 3 of them. And it's been a long search for the last... They're checking every inch and corner of the earth looking for these 3 monsters and to find out where they are.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be... And I'm sure he's going to have a team. You just bring Hiddleston in, you put a little gray hair on the sides. He doesn't have to look that old. You know what I mean? Makeup can solve all that problems. But he's going to have a team, and maybe that's why there's a casting call for bounty hunters. He's going to have cannon fodder on his team. Come on, imagine they find Rodan. Rodan wakes up. He's going to fly down and snatch up some bounty hunters.
Well, so far, there's no word about Tom Hiddleston even being in this movie.
No, I understand that, but I'm the speculating. This is why it's called speculating, Joey.
Okay, but it was in '73 when Skull Island takes place, and then they accidentally discover the Mutos from Godzilla in '99. So there's a 27-year gap where he couldn't find anything, and a bunch of miners accidentally stumble upon
right
the first finding.
Right. Okay, but listen
He's
here.
not very good at his job if he can't find anything.
Maybe that's why he's not in the next movie. No, but what I'm saying is, like, in the end of Skull Island, they show the silhouettes, right?
Yeah.
They know about them, but they don't know about the Muto at that point. Remember that. They don't know about... the Muto are not in those silhouettes. So, yes, it's possible for them to stumble upon the Muto without ever knowing about them, because as far as we know, for that one movie that took place all those years ago, at that point, they didn't know about the Muto. You know what I mean? Now, we do know in Godzilla that at some point, they did, I think, find out about them, because that's what I think... I gotta see the movie again now. Now I gotta see the movie again. Now, yeah, I definitely gotta see it again to try and see if there's any connection, if they had this planned. But my point is that I think Serizawa in Godzilla 2014 did have a hunch of the Muto already. You know what I mean? And then that's when he attacked, the male attacked the power plant. Then a couple of years later is when Serizawa was there with his assistant, and they were it was in its cocoon or whatever. But anyway,
you're right. You're right.
I'm
he knew they were parasites. He was aware of them, of what they were. Maybe they found something before. So yeah, you're right.
So I think obviously Tom Hiddleston won't be in the movie, but who's to say that on some sort of hunt he got killed or something or whatever. I don't know if they would necessarily put Tom Hiddleston in the end credit scene if it didn't mean he was going to show up at some point. But I don't think obviously it won't be in this movie unless it's going to be a big surprise and he'll do a cameo. But I do think the bounty hunter thing, in my opinion, is going to be a link to finding the monsters. That's my overall thought on that. For a minute, I thought maybe it would be bounty hunters hired by the government to run down Monarch officials, because we know there's such a thing. Well, there's such a thing as bounty hunters in real life. So, and these are people who specialize in finding people that are hard to find. So I thought perhaps if these monsters start coming out and Monarch is held accountable, a lot of people are going to try and hide, run. The government, the government wants answers, so they're going to run these guys down and try and find out what the hell's going on. So, those are my ideas on that, on why the bounty hunters. And one last thing. Actually, there is one more. It could just be a placeholder. There may not be bounty hunters in the movie at all. We got to think about that too. You know?
Yeah, they were making too big of a deal out of
Yeah,
it.
and that's another thing I thought. I'm like, maybe this is not any fucking bounty hunters in the movie because
Like you'll see them in the background, and that's
yeah,
it.
yeah. Well, I think sometimes they're very secretive about the movie. They don't want any spoilers, so rather than put the actual casting call of what the character is, they'll just put something crazy, which will throw people off. Which is why we're having this conversation. And there's no bounty hunters at all. So things you got to keep in mind. Yeah.
Thank you for watching E.T.N. You can follow E.T.N on Facebook, Twitch, or Twitter, or join the Nation Facebook page. Don't forget to click that subscribe button on your way out.